Hey, what is up, all you lonely watchers out there? As an avid Yokai Watch fan, I've made an attempt to play every single Yokai Watch game, including the ones that never released in the West. A lot of these titles eluded me for the longest time, but the one that caught my eye most, besides Yokai Watch Just Dance Special, was the forgotten sequel to Yokai Watch Blasters. Yokai Watch Busters 2, the secret treasure of the legendary Banbaraya, Sword and Magnum. That is one mouthful of a title. I initially played this game on my Japanese 3DS, but since I never really liked the first Blasters game and I had a hard time following the story of this one, I dropped it pretty quickly. A couple of months later though, I modded my 3DS, giving me access to the fan-made English translation patch, which I streamed to my channel at the time. I do remember broadly liking the game, but I figured it's about time to go back and give it a critical second look. Did Yokai Watch Blasters 2 strike gold? Or did it lose its direction while it was looking? Let's find out. Wait a second. We should probably do a quick rundown of the Blasters series first. Yokai Watch Blasters first appeared as a side mode in Yokai Watch 2 as a way to enter Terror Time at any point, as well as adding cooperative play to the game. The mode eventually got an expanded version via the Oni Evolution update for Yokai Watch 2 entitled Psychic Blasters. This would lay the groundwork for the next major spin-off game, Yokai Watch Blasters Red Cat Corps and White Dog Squad, which released on July 11th, 2015 in Japan. This game had way more missions, with many coming later as updates, while also placing a large emphasis on online cooperative play. The game took more of an action RPG approach, where you can play with 3 NPC yokai or up to 3 friends if you happen to have those and they know what Yokai Watch is. While I like the idea of this game, I never really liked the gameplay and difficulty spikes, so I haven't played much of it. Blasters haters would rejoice when the next year brought a new mainline entry, Yokai Watch 3. While the game didn't launch with a Blasters mode, one was eventually brought to it via the third version of the game, Sukiyaki. Blasters T was very different from Psychic Blasters, however. Sure, the controls were the same, but this time we explore the Cluvian continent while treasure hunting through procedurally generated dungeons. I found these much more fun to explore while also appreciating the bosses and massive rewards you would get from completing missions. And in a similar vein to Psychic Blasters in 2, Level 5 soon expanded Blasters T into its own game, Blasters 2, releasing only in Japan on December 16th, 2017. This game had a mixed reception at launch. On top of people being iffy on the gameplay, Blasters 2 released in an incomplete and buggy state, constantly crashing and glitching out for many people. Reminds me of a certain other game in the franchise, I don't know. I rarely experienced glitches in my original playthrough besides this one soft lock that kinda screwed me. So for this review, I decided to play the game on version 1.0 to see if I could experience any more of the glitches that people have been reporting. Also, a fair warning, the mod that I'm using is a machine translation of an unfinished Italian translation mod, so you may see up to 3 languages on the screen at once. They did, however, finish translating the story, so I have the gist of that. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the first part of this review, the plot. This game's story weirdly establishes a clear passage of time, which is odd for Yokai Watch. It also has a pretty unique setup for the series. See, the Blasters are behind on their rent, and the building owner, Skelabella, comes to collect it. Jibanyan is home alone, and so he goes to get the money from Blizzy's desk, but oh no, it's 100 euros short. Jibanyan, in a fit of pride, proclaims they can pay 100 times the missing amount in a year, or the Blasters can be evicted. Fast forward, and we're 1 week away from eviction. The Blasters talk to Sergeant Burley, and he takes the team out to Treasure Island with esteemed explorer Indiana Jaws to hunt for treasure in order to pay off their debt. The plot quickly devolves into trying to acquire the Bombarayas stone in order to save the island and the world at large before it's seized by the Bundori family, a team of most wanted cat family bandits. I won't talk about anything else to avoid spoilers, but the story has a lot better flow than the first Blasters game, especially with its unique cast of characters. Of course, we have the main crew from the first game returning as our protagonists, but we also get a spotlight on returning yokai from Yokai Watch 3. Indiana Jaws is such an incompetent goof, and I love him, with there being a little more to him than can be seen on the surface. I also appreciate the highlighted relationship between Yanzis II and his servant Zomboy, especially in some of the side missions. There's also the very puntable Shovel Can who helps out from time to time, but I feel like I need to bury him before he buries me. The main new members of the cast this time around, as mentioned earlier, are the members of the Bundori family. They're like the Koopalings of Yokai Watch, but way better. Some of them may be one note, sure, but most of them are pretty unique and get fleshed out as the game moves on and we learn more about their motivations. Again, not great, but still pretty good considering this game's cast of characters. This is one of my main problems with the Blasters games in general. They throw so many yokai into the story and they barely develop a fraction of them. The new yokai besides the Bundori family are also really neat, with the bosses especially having some really cool or eerie design. This game also attempted to expand the Enma family tree, as well as promoting the latest Yokai Watch movie, Yokai Watch Shadow Side. Lord Ananta and Lord Akala are introduced from the movie, as well as Lord Enma now sporting his Shadow Side attire. I feel like this is the last game where a majority of the new yokai introduced had really cool designs. But the aesthetics of this game come from more than just the yokai designs, and I have to say, they flounder in some other areas. While every game in the series reuses music, this game continues that trend to an unnerving degree. There are almost no new songs in this game, only a handful, with an overwhelming majority of the OST being ripped from Blasters 1 and Yokai Watch 3. And it's genuinely disappointing because you mostly hear the same songs over and over and over again, particularly this one Explorer theme, and Don Spears' theme in the endgame, which plays at almost every mission, and honestly, it kind of ruined that song for me. Even when I go back to playing Yokai Watch 3, I groan whenever I get to the final boss because that song has just forever been ruined. On top of that, the game looks so bland. I mean, graphically it looks good as it's identical to the other games on 3DS, and I really like the design of the new base camp on Treasure Island, but all the dungeons use the same random, recycled themes from Blasters T, and it's annoying. Floors go from meadows to caves to pirate ships, and it's just so jarring to see. I would like to see some variety in the theming, but not if it's just throwing random themes together and acting like it's a cohesive dungeon. The cutscenes look nice this time though, possibly being the series' best on the 3DS at least, but it doesn't excuse every location in this game feeling like a level made in a level editor and not an actual place. Maybe some of these flaws could be tolerated if the gameplay is good. So let's talk about that. Now, this game is very similar to Blasters T, but there are some new additions and changes. First of all, they removed the crafting system from the first Blasters, which I did enjoy a lot. It's one of the few things from the Blasters games that I did really appreciate, so it seems kind of weird to have it just gone and Signaton doing practically nothing in this game. He just exists. That, and since this is a full Blasters game, we went from using Blasters T's EXP to the Oni Orb system from Blasters. And the Oni Orb system is another thing I never really liked about the Blasters games. I would have much preferred if there was a separate experience system and a separate money system that you can earn. The orbs are just so boring to grind out, and then you have to use them as your currency as well. It also kind of discourages you from using different yokai, as you're most likely to just pour a bunch of Oni orbs into your attacker and not worry about anyone else. But one of the things this game does add that I like are the treasure links, an evolution of the dream links from Yokai Watch 3. These are weapons that can only be used by collecting elemental charges from beating enemies, but they can also be crazy powerful and trivialize boss fights in the early game. The first of which is the Magnum, which can shoot from a medium distance. It's not as powerful as the other weapons, but it can be easily spammed and decimate enemies and bosses. So it can help you out if you're in a bind or if you just want to put the game on autopilot. The second is the Chainsword, which can slash everything around you in a second, but it takes a bit to charge up. The final weapon is the Sniper, which is mainly used to damage enemies far away or in the sky. It also tends to be the most useless due to the incredibly long charge time, which leaves you open for attack. The high amount of damage just isn't worth the risk most of the time. Outside of the specific boss it was pushed for, I haven't touched it. Since there are different elemental charges, shooting a yokai with the same element they possess can do extra damage. Same thing with these little boxes you can break to get items. It would have made much more sense if you shot the opposing element for extra damage, but I don't mind too much. There's also two other items in the Dream Link that you don't really use directly. First is the Yokai Pod, which lets you carry a 5th team member's Soultimate with you into a dungeon. And there's also this little robot guy that can help you collect items, but not much else. There is an option to level him up, but I didn't want to waste my Oni orbs on that, as in my original playthrough, it didn't seem to really do much, at least not much that was worth it. But also collecting a charge plays a very annoying noise every single time, even if you're maxed out on charges, which can lead to some frustrating moments, especially when bosses are dropping a ton of them. Similarly, the Spirit of Bombaria can occasionally cause random events, which, to this day, I have not figured out, but the loud noise out of nowhere scares me every time, and I just don't like it. What is with the sound design in this game? I know it sounds a little ridiculous to complain about this, but also, I'm autistic, so sudden unpredictable noises like that are never fun. I would sometimes even play the game with the volume turned down or my headphones out just so I could feel safe. Now, I still think these additions can make the game more fun over the original Blasters T, but they ruined all of this game's potential by changing one simple mechanic, and that is the Clu-T-Facts system. Clu-T-Facts are mysterious treasures that can be collected during a dungeon. If you bring them all the way to the end, they can transform into some rare items or sometimes even rare yokai. These could be obtained from many different chests in Blasters T, which is where most of the fun in that mode came from, racking up a bunch of Clu-T-Facts and getting some sweet rewards. Blasters 2 laughs in the face of this and removes all Clu-T-Facts from standard chests. There are now only 2 ways to get Clu-T-Facts in a single dungeon. The first is collecting 100 coins before the final boss, unlocking the Banquet Hall minigame, in which you need to acquire 50 points to guarantee a Clu-T-Fact, or 30 points for a 50% chance. The second way is via the chest you get for beating the final boss of the dungeon. This leaves only 2, or sometimes even 1 chance at getting a Clu-T-Fact per dungeon, severely nerfing the one thing that made the Blasters T formula so fun. There are multiple other types of dungeons outside the story, but they all feel the same in my eyes because they all have the same fundamental flaw that keeps me from playing them as often as I'd like. The Aura and Forbidden dungeons can sometimes be a nice change of pace or help you get a specific yokai. And the Dastardly dungeons would be fun gauntlets if the rewards were worth the time and effort to go through 20 or more floors when 5 are already mentally draining and similarly give you the same peanuts, at least in terms of quantity. Combine that with the soft locks I experienced almost every time I went to go fight the final boss, and I really can't justify giving this game anything higher than a C rank. Even though the bugs and glitches rarely impacted my gameplay personally, it would still be a disservice to ignore everyone who has. This game had loads of potential because it was based on such an excellent mode, but it unfortunately stripped it of the main thing that made it so fun in the first place. If you do want to play this game, I highly recommend installing both the English translation mod and the mod that restores the Blaster's T Clu-T-Fact system, which I have linked in the description. It's a shame that this game ended up being the final entry on the Nintendo 3DS. The Treasure Era was a fun one as well, with many cool yokai designs, anime episodes, merch, the works. While I very much enjoy the Shadowside era, I sometimes look back and wonder what could have been if this game had spent a little more time in the oven, or even came out on the Nintendo Switch. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this review. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on this game if you played it in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye, my lonely watchers.